Well, hello, y'all. Coming back at you with another video, another little welding video. This time, welding some thin metal. This is eighth of an inch. I think it's 3.18 millimeters thick. This is, like I said, decking plates, so it's going to have some little heavier, thicker ridges on it right there, as y'all can see that. I'm not going to clean this metal. It's not important because like I said, this is going to be just for demonstration purpose. This is just going to be for demonstration purposes. I'd like to explain the importance of how to get your weld to tie these two pieces of metal together without burning through. It's all in your heat control. It's all in the control of your puddle, your speed of your puddle, and also it has to do with your amperage range too. You don't want to go too hot with your amperage because you'll burn right through this stuff. I'm going to be using some, and these are really tiny welding sticks, but they'll serve the purpose really good. Even though I could weld this with some thicker welding rods, I'm gonna run some thinner welding rods. What I have I'm setting those pieces of metal down right there. What I have right here, these welding rods right here are actually 1/16 of an inch. That's how tiny those things are. And these are sold, let me see, I'm trying to help y'all see this. I think y'all can kind of see that. That's really tiny. And it's not just about the size of a thick pencil lead. That'll work. These welding rods right here are E6013. If you can remember that, electrode 6013. These are Chicago Electric welding rods. These guys can actually be ordered online if you want to do that, and sent right to your property, right to your house. I believe. Don't quote me on that. I could be wrong about that. Anyways, you can pick them up in store. If you live over in a different country, I don't know if you guys have access to these rods right here. But if you don't have 1/16, then get yourself a 3/32. And I can demonstrate with a 3/32 welding rod too the difference in how they act. I don't have a 6013 3/32, or what? Maybe I do. Let me see. Let me double check this. Yeah, this is 6013 1/8. These have a crisper weld sound to them. These are for more like rusted metal. You can weld right across the rust with these rods. Not that the rods are important, because this is more for beginner welders. This is what I'm trying to do this for, like an educational series. I mean, like I said, there's other people you can go watch for an educational series on it. These right here only run at about, I think, 40 to 50 amps. No, the current range is 20 to 45 amps with these rods right here. 20 to 45. So you think if you can get your voltage down, your amperage down to 20 amps or even 45 amps and weld something, you're not going to get very much heat in the plate. Therefore, you're going to be able to control how much heat you're putting into the plate. Hopefully, I mean, these, I've ran these a little bit hotter than 45 amps before, and they work just fine. They burn up pretty fast because they're so short, but they're really nice little welding rods to use on thinner metal. So, with that being said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set you guys up in my new welding helmet. Once again, set you guys up in my new welding helmet. And we're going to use 1/16 welding rods. So, let me get set up over here. I got this makeshift helmet holder here that I'm going to put my helmet on. It's going to hold on right here, and then you guys might be able to see what I'm actually going to be doing, the weld, in fact. And I'm going to try to zoom this in so you guys can see, hopefully you can see how I'm welding. Now, I'm not going to be welding with the arc where you're seeing the arc. I'm going to be welding toward the camera so that you can see how I'm running that weld in there on the two pieces of metal. Like I said, this video is strictly for beginner people who are trying to learn how to weld thinner metal instead of the thicker metal that they start out with when they start out in welding school. So let me pause the video here for a moment, get set up, and get everything dialed in, get the two plates tacked together. I will tack the plates together, and then I will run up a couple beads so y'all can see, excuse me, the technique. Okay, y'all. Putting y'all in my helmet here so y'all can see this. I'm going to try to zoom my lens in, my camera in. All right. And I'm going to explain some things to think about when welding thinner metal. Unless you're really, really good at it, really proficient at it, I would suggest I'm going to turn this up to about 40 amps. I'm going to suggest that you go through here, put a few small tacks in here on your plates in between, and just do small stitch welds in between. Just like that. Just a small tack weld. I'm going to knock that slag off there, even though I don't really need to. But my suggestion is, so I'm running this at 40 amps. I could run it down the lows. Oh, you know what? I'll run this at the minimum amperage. Maybe 25 amps. 20 is the minimum. Maybe almost the minimum. And the main thing you want to concentrate on is getting that weld on both sides of the plate. So, that being said, I'm going to start this welder up. Notice how I got my hand rested right here because I'm trying to help you guys see what I'm doing here too. So I've got my hands rested right here. I'm going to use my thumb to help control the stick as I move it this way. Just kind of like sliding my fingers across here like this. So here we go. Check this out, y'all. After I get this slag off of here again. I'm having too much fun over here. I'll pick my welding electrodes back up off the ground. Pain in the brake. Hopefully I didn't mess that up too much. So the thing is, like say if I'm looking at the stick right here, what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to concentrate my eyes right there where that weld puddle is starting to form. And I want to watch that weld puddle form on both sides of this plate all at once. Yeah, the minimum is just too cold for this stick. I'm going to turn it up to 40 amps. It would work. The minimum would probably work on some really, really thin stuff. If you were tack welding it, spot welding it, it doesn't want to get an arc going hot enough. So I turned these sticks up to 40 amps, and then we'll see what I can do now. You kind of want to keep this in mind when it comes to welding these plates, these thin stuff together. You don't want to keep your bead there for too long, because if you keep your bead there for too long, you're going to burn through this really all the way through it. So you kind of want to make your beads really nice and small. The thinner the metal is, the thinner the bead you need. Okay, so that was with the 1/16 stick. Now I'm going to see if I've got any 332. I'm going to increase the amperage a little bit more. And I would suggest get some thin metal and just continue practicing your bead and try to make it as thick as the metal that you're welding on. And like I said, make sure you're concentrating, watching the puddle on both sides attach itself to here and up here to this other piece of metal, your base metals. Hey, you know what? On second thought, I'm going to run one more bead right here. And then I'm going to take this thing off of here, tack it back on here, and I'm going to flip it around and weld on the back side. It's the same concept, even though there's going to be a little bit more metal here, but it's not a whole tremendous amount, because I've only stuck a little tiny weld right there. But the thing I was saying was, with welding thin metal when you're first starting out, practice small sections of passes, like maybe an inch or so, and see if you can keep from burning through the metal. And if you're up at, like say if I was welding this at 75 amps, I'd be running that stick as fast as I could to get it across there, so I'm not going to burn through this metal too fast. I want to get the heat in there, but I don't want it to be so hot that it melts the base plate all the way through, because that's not necessary, especially on a T-joint like this. So let me get another stick out here. Put it in the thing. And this time, I will run it this way just to give you guys a better perspective of what I'm talking about with the weld puddle flowing on both sides of the metal. And I'm doing a little bit of weave motion there, a little bit of pushing the rod back and forth. Just to demonstrate how fast I was moving with that. You don't want to go too, like I said, you don't want to go too slow. With your pass. Now, of course, I got a little bit of porosity right there. Not too much right there. I got just a little. The rod kind of went like this and went down. You kind of want to try to get your puddle to go on both sides of your plate, like I was saying before. So, with that being said, I'm gonna flip this thing around. I'm gonna get a pair of pliers on that. And flip that around so I can weld the other side, that other seam, with a 3/32, but I gotta find my 3/32 rods first. Here we go. These are Vulcan class 3/32, 6013. And I would say that just like I said, where the arc is, just watch where the puddle's melting your metal. And watch how it's forming back in here like this. Right there where the metal's cooling off. And that'll kind of give you an indication of how fast you need to be moving. Because if you start seeing this, if you can actually look underneath your arc, your welding arc, and see that your metal is melting away. If you see it's melting away too fast, you're going too slow. I mean, if you see it's melting away a whole lot underneath there, you're moving too slow with your bead. So the thing to do is to increase your speed a little bit and just let it dig in a little bit. Watch underneath the arc as well, so you can see how much the metal is melting away. You can actually see, if your eyes are good enough, I'm just saying if your eyes are good enough, you can actually visibly see the metal underneath the weld puddle eating the metal away, the base metal, to lay that weld in there. So with this, I'm going to turn this up to about 55 amps. Okay, I'm going to run it this way again. Once more this way. Like I said, you can actually look underneath your arc. If you get your head in front of your weld, in other words, if you get your body in front of your weld like this, you can actually see underneath the stick right here and see what the what your puddle is doing when it's going into the base metal. If you're welding on really thin stuff, it'll really help you out in your control of how much heat you're putting into that plate. See, at first that was kind of choppy back here, but that's all right. Because like I said, this is just for demonstration purposes for the beginner welders who are trying to learn how to weld thinner metal with stick, with the stick welding process. I know that's not good. I'd have to grind part of that out. And right there, I didn't get enough fusion because the rod wandered on me. And that's one other thing I was going to tell you guys about, is that sometimes your rod is going to want to wander on you. Just go back and grind that area out, and then just re-weld it. Yeah, technically I would weld that. I would grind that out a little bit with a really thin, a wafer thin disc, like one of these right here. This is aluminum oxide, which I should be using on aluminum, but you know, that's what I picked up, so I'm going to use them. This is 7/8 arbor, by the way. Technically, you get in there and just grind it out right there like that, really thin wafer disc to get that out of there, and then restart your arc. But I'm just going to weld over that for now. Try to get this thing to go. I'm going to turn up my amperage a little bit more to 670 amps, and then it should burn into there really good. And like I said, the more you turn up your amps, the faster you should move your stick. See, and that's something you don't want, trapped slag in there. And that's because I didn't grind that slag back out. But y'all get the point. The point is that the higher you turn up your amperage, the more you want to move that stick faster. Once you get it going, I'm going to go up to as much as 80 amps right now. Sorry, my arm's in the way, everybody. I'm gonna run another bead right across there. I'm just gonna run it right at the bottom of that weld. Normally you wouldn't do that. Normally you would knock that slag off there, but since that slag was still hot, I think I was okay with doing that. Let's just see where I'm at with this right now. Like I said, this is for demonstration purposes only. I'm not worried about that slag in there. I don't want to teach anyone bad habits. Don't ever leave that slag in there. That's a bad habit. Get that slag out of there when you do your metal. Like I said, grind it. Some people think it's so cool if they just hide what they got there. Try to hide it. Don't hide your work. Because you know what? You might want to build something that's really durable, and that'll cause a crack in your really durable piece of equipment that you want to build or whatever, and it fatigue it, and then maybe something catastrophic will happen to you or somebody else that was using that piece of equipment. But some people will try to hide that. By burning into that really deeply like that, and then trying to hide up their weld. So that the inspectors don't see what they're doing. Instead of just going through there, taking a few moments out of their day and just grinding the weld out. Anyways, y'all, like I said, this is mainly just a welding demonstration video on welding thin stuff. I'm at right now with this 6013 on that 80 amps. I can even weld this thing at 100 amps with this 6013 3/32 and be able to burn across that without burning through, and it's because of my travel speed. And there you guys go. I didn't burn through that thin metal, even at 100 amps, with all that heat already on there, is because of my travel speed. Travel speed, heat range is critical. If you're not getting enough heat in there to melt these two pieces, you're too cold. Turn your amperage up a little bit more. If you're burning through too much, you're either one of two things. You've got your amperage set high enough, but you're going too slow. Or your amperage is just right, but you're going way too slow. Or your amperage is too hot, and you're just burning right through it because you're not traveling fast enough. My encouragement is, if you're going to weld hot on some thin sheet metal, turn your amperage, run your pass faster. The faster you move, the less opportunity that you're going to burn through your plate metal, your sheet metal. And like I said, y'all don't want that in your welds. You will get better the more you practice. So my strongest encouragement to you guys all is practice, practice, practice. So see how that bead is nice and flat right there? And that's because I was running so hot and fast. That's what you do not want. You don't want that slag trapped in there where it's really visible and you can see that. Like I said, this is just demonstration purposes. Here's the smaller weld right there. And I did that with, like I said, with 1/16 welding rod at about 40 amps. The final pass was only at 40 amps anyways, and it really burned in there really good. So, instead, I hope this video helps you out, learns you something about the impurities that you can get in your welds, and the reason why you should keep making sure your welds are really clean when you weld something. Of course, many people already know that, who know about welding or know about mechanical stuff. They know how important the strengths are in what you do. Anyways, this is Mr. Welding Taking Tricks. Once again, saying, hey, hope you get really good with your welding, even if it's on thin metal and you're welding with stick. It can be accomplished. Remember that great challenge is travel speed and arc length and consistency. You get more consistent the more you practice. Don't be afraid to practice. Don't be afraid to get in there, strike your arc, and keep going. If you burn through the metal, get more metal and practice and practice and practice until you get it right, until you get your travel speed down, and you get your puddle hitting both sides of your base plates that you're welding, whether it's a T-joint, flat butt joint, lap joint, V-groove, V joint, T joint. There's so many different joints that slotted plug weld. You know, a slotted plug weld, you might have a plate sitting on top with a hole drilled into it, and there's a plate sitting underneath, and you have to weld inside that hole, and it's kind of like a lap joint, but you're welding it around the outer circumference of the of the hole, and then you're bringing it into the middle and filling it all the way up to the top. For those of you who don't know what a plug weld is. Anyways, check y'all later. Thanks for watching this video. If you like it, share it with others. Thanks a lot. Talk to you later. Bye. Oh, by the way, say hello to the starfish floating. He's still up there.